Welcome to the Voice of Men 360. Good morning to you, wherever you may be joining us. And my name is Arif Gilani. I'm the Vice President of Voice of Men. Voice of Men 360 is a nonprofit organization founded in 2022, and it's based in Toronto, Canada. Voice of Men 360 was born out of the need, seeing tremendous need, and stepping out to provide services to help support men and boys overcome life challenges. We are a part of International Men's Day organization. International Men's Day is celebrated for 21 years in 90 countries, and we follow the same 6 pillars of International Men's Day for overall well-being of men and boys. Why open up? Why open up show today? Open up show is to help individuals open up their hearts that are willing to share their stories that matter and may make an impact in the lives of other people. We keep our emotional challenges within ourselves and sometimes suffocate in silence. And Open Up is a platform to help boys, men, and all individuals to open up to share stories that may make an impact in the lives of other people. We aim to create awareness about life challenges, struggles, and that come our way for boys and men particularly, but for anyone, regardless of their gender, age, nationality, or ethnic group, people of all walks of life. So our goal is to make a positive impact in the lives through this program called Open Up, and that's on Sundays at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Today, I'm honored to have a special guest. Sueanne Pacheco is an author, and she is the founder of Epoch Effect and a marketing professional. Suzanne, welcome to the show and happy Sunday.
Hey, thank you. Thank you, Arif. I'm glad to be here.
Very welcome to you again. Let's start out dig into the issues that we all face and the issues that men particularly that are facing. I wanted to start on a positive note. So I wanted to ask you, is there anything that you can, before we get into your book, before we get into the journey, that you can share about from age of 5, 10 to 15, as a little, let's say, girl that had an impact on your life in your interactions with your father that is memorable to you, that you can share with our audiences?
Sure. So I'm from the Caribbean. I'm from Trinidad and Tobago. And so my dad came to Canada first to check things out and get settled. And then we followed afterwards. So I looked up to my dad as any young kid does. And he's a very hard worker. He had to break a lot of barriers in order to get started here in Canada. And some of my favorite memories, I remember one year we went shopping for a Father's Day gift. And we went into this particular store and I saw this beautiful robe. And I said to my mom, this is the gift for Dad. And she at first she was a little hesitant, but she decided, we're going to go ahead and get the gift. And so I remember carrying this huge, box into the bedroom, and I jumped up on the bed with my siblings and presented him with the gift. And when I saw his face open the gift, I could tell that he loved the gift, number one, and he saw how special it was. And I think that was a real bonding moment for the two of us at the time, because I was so proud and happy to say, oh, I chose this and everything else. So I think for my dad is a very silent type. He does not share a lot of his feelings. That's a combination of how he was also raised, coming from the Caribbean, and the experiences that he had as a child growing up. We had very humble beginnings. So while he had a very established, great position in Trinidad, he decided to make that change to come here. And really, it was for us, and so that we could probably get a better education, and his vision for what he wanted for his family. And so, for my brother and I, because my brother is older, the adjustment was a little bit difficult because we had already started school in Trinidad. And so we were adjusting to things here. My younger sibling, she was too small to really remember a lot of things. So her transition was much smoother in that regards. But I do remember my dad as a very strong individual. He put his foot down when he felt something was wrong. He would not let anybody, get the better of him, so to speak. And he really reinforced with all of us that education is key. Read as much as you can and do as best as you can, and you will be better off later on.
So, whoa, amazing. What I'm hearing, Suzanne, is a few things, sacrifices that he made. Men do make sacrifices. We all love our families, so we made sacrifices to provide this opportunity. The discipline that he displayed in really being able to uproot from one country to come to another to provide a better chance for his family. Also, the love that he felt when he was loved. So men, just like any other human beings, need a lot of love, and I'm glad to hear all of those things. Now, let's talk about your journey here in Toronto. You live in Toronto, you're an author, and you are a marketing professional. You also have the Epoch Effect. What is the Epoch Effect, if I would ask you?
So Epoch Effect came out of, it was sort of like it spilled over from when I first wrote the book, Mrs. Langwood's House. And really, for me, this is a platform for marginalized women and children. And I'm building it in such a way that they will also have a voice and a place where they will feel safe. And so all of the experiences that are being impacted upon them is a reflection of some of the things that I went through that I would like to give back. It's oftentimes difficult for marginalized women to get a foot up on things. And if they're raising children by themselves, regardless of the situation in which that is occurring, they need economic, emotional support. And so my vision is to build a platform where they can get that support and also be aspiring to them so that they can reach the goals that they have for themselves and their families as well.
That's wonderful. That's a noble cause, and that's why we're here on this platform with the Voice of Men 360 as trying to contribute to the lives of other people. It really takes courage to open up and talk about, let's say, your experiences to the public, to people who want to hear your voice. Let's talk about your book, Mrs. Langlois. Is that it? And is that a fictional character? I read a little bit about it on the web. Tell us a little bit about the characters and what is the main theme of your book?
So, excuse me, Mrs. Langwood's House is a young adult fiction novel, and the main character is Nix. And the main theme of the story is really about facing your fears and opening up to love. And so the story is set with three generations of women and how they interact with each other. And it deals with intergenerational traumas that each of them are going through in their own way and how that impacts the actions that they have taken and the experiences that they're having. So essentially, what I'm hoping is to inspire young adults when they're reading this story to relate to the characters and to get a sense of their stories are in that story as well. and they can relate to that story as well.
So just opening up a gateway, if you will, to tell people that we all have the same feelings, if you will. If you want to feel attachment, here's a story that you can read and relate to. Is that my right in assuming that they can
So,
relate, that anybody who reads it may be able to relate to the story that is portrayed in your book?
sure. So the way they can relate to it, and this is male or female, because as teenagers, when we're growing up, we all have feelings of feeling like we're left out, that we're alone, that we're unloved. And so we're always trying to find a way in which to feel that. And sometimes within our families, we don't often always know and understand why we feel the things that we do. And so you always want to find somebody who that you trust within your family circle, uh, whether it's within siblings, parents, or an extended family member. And this bodes for both men and young women as well. And so with this story, it explores how we go through periods of self-doubt. We have the lack of courage to step into who we truly are. We're trying to figure out who we are. And so, you know, the main character is going through that process. The two influential characters in her life are not really preparing her how to deal with those transitions. And oftentimes we do find those family dynamics where those things aren't discussed and we don't know, and we're not prepped or shown how to have those conversations sometimes with the people that we look up to within our families. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we feel like we're going through this by ourselves when really we don't have to go through it by ourselves, depending on what the experiences that we're having. So if we're fortunate to have a family dynamic where conversation is encouraged, then we grow up with a sense of, I can speak my truth. When that's not encouraged, we often have to find a way in which to bridge that gap and find a place where we're not going to be ridiculed for feeling that the way that we feel.
Wonderful. Suan, let me you mentioned a few things: going overcoming self-doubt, family discussions, and the feeling of telling people that you're not alone. And you're also a
Yes,
mother, a
yes.
proud mother of a boy also, and a wonderful daughter. Tell us about your relationship, about particularly with your son. How do you have him open up, or how do you, mothers and sons are usually closer than father and sons in most cases. In my case, I've been blessed to have a great relationship, even from long distance, with both of my parents. But how do you open up this discussion that let's talk about your feelings? Or do you have such discussions with your son?
Yes, I do actually. So when both of them, from when they were small, I encouraged having conversations. So when I was putting them to bed at night, I would have, after I've read them their bedtime story, I'd have a moment where I'd ask them, tell me about your day. And is there anything that you want to talk about? And that gave them an opportunity to speak to any concerns that they had. And I was also very intuitive. I could sort of kind of sense if something was troubling them, particularly my son, because there's a lot of pressures as well for both. But for my son, there's a lot of pressures in general because there's a certain dynamics that happens for young boys, a certain image that they have to project, and they may not necessarily feel that way. And when they're going through their changes as a tween, they have a lot of questions. And so it's trying to figure out what those questions are. And I just basically allowed myself to be a sounding board. I didn't necessarily pepper him with a lot of questions. It was more listening and getting a sense of where he's at. And when he did need the help, I just needed to be there for him. As a woman, I don't have a lived male experience, But for him, knowing that I am there for him so that he could feel safe, that was more than enough.
That's again a wonderful wisdom you're sharing here. Some of the things that I'm just recapping about the dynamics right now have changed. Especially, this is also my own experience with technology. Right now, is taking over the lives of many, particularly younger boys are attracted because there they can hide, but they can see also what's happening on the other side. Having
Mm-hmm.
this conversation, how important is having this open conversation with your son, with my son, and say, let's talk, how was your day? Or you mentioned also highly intuitive. I think that's very particularly important, and it's very high with women. Women are more intuitive than men are. And so how important is having these conversations with your son in helping him grow up to the man that he needs to be?
What it did is it shaped his ability to communicate. He started to develop a sense of who he is and a sense of what I can share of myself to others. What I love and what's so beautiful about my son is as I watched him grow up, he went through his awkward period in life where he just didn't know uh, um, what he wanted to do, where he wanted to take his life, which is, pretty common amongst all teenagers. And but what was really central and what was really grounding was in his high school years, he found a group of male friends and female friends. And they've become his family outside of our immediate family. And what he has shown me and taught me as well in that process, because I know all of his friends, was being authentic. He, amongst those group of friends, was enabled to be himself. He didn't have to hide. He didn't have to make up things to be liked. He didn't have to try to do crazy, exotic things to be liked. He was accepted as he is. And because he was accepted as he is, he could be himself. He could laugh, he could joke, he could be serious, he could be angry with them, he could be hurt amongst them because he knew he was safe amongst them and he is safe amongst them. And it's the same for me. I remember he came home. I'm going to give a story where he had a pet as a young boy and his pet died. And I remember when he had to, do the whole burial thing and everything else. And he came home and I looked at his face and I could see he was just distraught. And I just put my arms around him and I let him cry. And I think because I let him cry, he got a sense of it's okay to show your feelings. You can be vulnerable because vulnerability is strength. It's not a weakness.
Wow, wow. Incredible again. The group of friends that we, particularly men, hang on to or together, feel build that safety zone. You're very right about this. I've experienced it with myself, even with my son who's 9 years old right now. A place that they can be themselves. They don't have to pretend. They don't have to be anybody else. So let's switch gears right now. Talk about home life and your career. Right now, you're in the middle of this big mission that you have, set out to women to basically talk about some of the issues that you feel that women are facing and even girls are facing. How do you balance? How do you balance your work and life? Work-life balance, talk about that, because you've been busy raising kids and then writing books and then working as a professional. How do you juggle all of this stuff, Suan?
So, okay. So, in terms of work life balance, so as you know, as a marketing professional, I did that while I was raising our children. And so I did that for a number of years. Writing the book did not come immediately, it came after the children were much older in their high school years where I could get more me time. And so it was a constant work in progress. And in 2018, 2019, I finished the book and got it published. And so the only way that I was able to do that would be at nights. So after everybody has gone to bed, I would, carve out a couple of hours and write. As they got older, I switched to doing the writing in the mornings. And again, just a couple of hours before going out to work and so forth. Or on the weekends, I devote a lot of time on the weekends if I didn't have too much things to do in between all of their activities and so forth. And so the book was not like an overnight piece of work. It took time, and I had to sort of carve out that time with everything that was going on with raising a family. And
Well,
so that's when I decided, you know what, I'm going to start Epoch Effect and start building a channel and a voice for the concerns that I have as relates to women and marginalized women. And so part of that also is finding peace and harmony for yourself. So I'm also going through my own personal journey in finding that peace and harmony as well. And so as I transition away from the marketing career, it's always going to stay with me. And I'm now moving more towards building out what I want to do with Epoch Effect and sharing that voice of peace and harmony, compassion. Because one of the things that I want to ensure, and this is for everyone, is that it's really about accepting each other, having compassion for each other, and really the harmony is in accepting our unique differences. We're here on this earth to balance each other's unique differences, not to fight against it. When we fight against it, this is how we have the discord. So as I continue to write my young adult stories, I want to build that into the stories, the aspirational aspect of the fact that you and I are here to learn the many facets of why we are connected to each other, not just male and female, but as one collective whole. There's strengths that men bring, there are strengths that women bring. When we work together, then we have a collective unity where we can achieve things in a more peaceful and calm way.
wow, that's really the mission of Voice of Men 360, to create a platform where we can feel safe, just like that earlier we talked about as the circle of friends, that people feel safer. So we're building this network of safety, if you will. And it seems to me that you're doing the same thing with Epoch Effect with for women. So this is perhaps a very harmonious relationship that's going to be built up over time, and I'm really looking forward to it. But you talked about marginalized women, mainly the issues that you. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? Again, in this
So,
platform, this is not only for men. I apologize again, but
yeah.
for anyone. So tell me about the challenges that marginalizing women. What does that mean, or what are the
So,
challenges they face?
yeah. So you can look at it from many perspectives. You can look at it from discrimination. You can look at it from economic discrimination. You can look at it from sexual discrimination. You can look at it from societal discrimination. So all of the laws and rules that are built into cultural traditional practices, legal practices that really disadvantage women to some degree. And so when you look at it from that perspective, you have to kind of ask yourself, while we are working towards a society where things are equal for men and women, women are still disproportionately carrying a lot of the family economically. And so, how can we now bring that further along? And so, part of it is education. How do we ensure that they're getting similar education so that they can make the choices for their lives and as well be able to get the jobs and build the lifestyle that they need in order to support their families. And when we get to a place where we close that gap, we are more likely going to be, as I spoke about before, in a place where we will have that balance and harmony, where we will have equal voice in what determines how we move forward as a collective group.
Wonderful. Suan, let's say I feel like I'm one of these people who feel marginalized. I'm feeling in my corner. I'm watching this show right here. And where do I start? What's my first step? If I'm feeling suffocated, I'm in my corner. I feel like I need to talk to somebody. I need to reach out to Suan. I need to do something. What's my first step? Where do I start?
The first step is to look within. Start with yourself. Look at some of the things that you feel are triggering you. Uh, Look at how you're feeling. Because oftentimes, when we're feeling stuck, if we're feeling um, frustrated, sad, we have to deal with those feelings. Excuse me. When we deal with those feelings and we face them, oftentimes it's fears, it's our fears. And when we start looking at our fears and identifying what those fears are, what's triggering those fears, then we can have the conversation. If you come to me and you're lashing out at me, I'm not going to be able to assist you in getting to where you need to be. So it's always best to start with what's happening within, understand what those fears and triggers are. Once you're able to identify that, then you're able to have the conversation with yourself, with myself, or whomever within your circle. They may not all understand, but because you got the strength now to talk about what's really happening inside, you can start to make a determination as to what it is you need to not only heal yourself, but what you need to start building your life in the direction that you want it to go.
Wow. I feel, Swan, I feel even smarter. I feel better. I feel so much for having this conversation with you. And I'm also taking notes. I'm a note taker. So I hope that our viewers take some notes from this. You also talk about education, being able to determine, have some choices into the future, both for girls and for men. Let's talk about education that you are right now imparting as we come closer to the last minutes of our show. Tell us where people find you. Where do we find Suan, and how do we get hold of Epoch Effect resources or what you provide? So tell us about where do they find you online? Do they find you on the phone, social media? Tell us where you are.
Sure. You can go to my website, sueannepacheco.com. You can also find my book there as well. You can also go to Friesen Press to find my book, or Amazon. You can also find me on Twitter at Pacheco Sueanne. And you can also find me on Instagram as well.
I didn't get the chance. I was overseas, didn't get a chance to read your book. I'm really looking forward to connecting. Do you have a copy of the book you can show us just in case I pass
Sure.
by chapters in my corner and see it? Miss Langlouis' house.
Mrs. Langla's
Miss
house, yes.
Yes, so I'm looking forward to reading it myself, but I'm encouraging all the viewers to also take a copy and see if they can resonate. I'm sure there's a lot of wisdom in there and also great stories that they can relate to. So thank you for very much, Suan, for your time today. and I'm really looking forward to the future. Looks like we have hit a very common ground with the issues that we are addressing in our journeys.
Thank you,
Any
Arash.
closing comments that you have for our viewers? Please go
Uh,
ahead.
my closing statement would be that we all have dreams. And so pursue your dreams. Take your time with your dreams. There's a lot to explore in this life, and just be present with it and be patient with yourself. This life is a journey, and take in the joy of all that you're experiencing, and know that there is somebody who can help you along your way.
Thank you so much. What a pleasure, what an honor. And with that, we come to the closing of our Sunday show here. Open up with Sueanne and her book and her services that she's trying on a mission. And with that, I'm just going to close up the show with a few announcements that we have. We're also trying to get the voice out for men. I feel like men feel more suffocated and feel more reserved into speaking their heart and opening up. And we all have people that we open up, like Suan, our mothers, our sisters, our people. But here's a few announcements that you can also have access to other resources. Open Up is usually on Sundays at 10 Eastern Time. Standard. We have Vili, that's a Tamil live talk show that is on Sundays, 8 Eastern Time. If you're in that community, please make sure that you tune into that. We also have monthly webinars, first Saturday of every month at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. The next one that I'm excited about, actually, I'm hosting, is going to be May 7th at 10 a.m. So if you're watching this, please make sure that you tune into that. That's Men of the North. And we're going to talk about some of the issues that men of the North are facing. We also have monthly special shows, Unspoken Tears. Oh boy, have I seen tears, and I think you're going to like this one. This is every Saturday of the month. We have different shows coming up. The Authors Circle is again 11 a.m. to 12 a.m. Eastern Time on third Saturday of the month. So every Saturday we got one show coming up that you don't feel left out, you don't feel alone. Every week you can tune into one of our shows and make sure that you're part of this circle that is doing a great job. And we are on also podcast, available on our 6 platforms: iTunes, Google Play, and so on. Monthly men's meeting groups. Please, I'm encouraging everyone to join in. We are looking for resources. We're looking for stories. We're looking for people who want to contribute, to lighten up, to encourage, to guide, and to mentor other men. And that is on Zoom call Tuesday from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Every month, monthly men's group. And Pass the Talking Stick is Indigenous peer-to-peer group support on Friday of every month, fourth Friday of every month, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. There's a lot of communities in Canada and around the world who need support, both for men and women, and we are here at Voice of Men 360 providing this support. I wanted to thank our founder, as Mr. Sivam, who's put in a lot of effort, and I've joined this wonderful team to be able to bring you these messages. You can reach out to us via phone, 437-889-8329, at email at info@voiceofmen360.org. You can also visit www.voiceofmen360.org. You can also subscribe to the social media, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, and all of that. And I encourage you to subscribe to the YouTube channel of Voice of Men 360 for more wisdom-based and real talk about the issues that we all face. Thank you very much, and have a great weekend, everyone. I'll see you on next Sunday.